does not constitute paper. Please do more work on this topic and resubmit it, right? Or it would get to the review stage and the reviewer would be like, this is not interesting or novel, or it doesn't do enough work, it's inconsequential, it doesn't do anything, so it's not worthy of publication. But if you're from Harvard, like, the trick is you have to be famous to get a homework problem paper published. Here's another example of one from Ed Witten. Ed Witten is a very famous physicist. This paper concerns Planet 9. Do I have to explain Planet 9? Okay. In the outer solar systems, beyond Pluto, there are these bodies that are inclined to the plane of the galaxy. So this could be due to disk dynamics, or there is a theory that very far outside Pluto, there is a highly inclined planet that is pulling some stuff up. Okay, that's called Planet 9. Someone was like, well, if it's Planet 9, how come we haven't seen it? And like, obviously it's because planets are relatively small on like the scale of a galaxy, so it would be hard to see. It's also very far from the sun, so it's not going to be reflecting a lot of light. But a paper suggested maybe it's a black hole. We can't see it because it's a black hole. It's still massive, it's still pulling up bodies, but we can't see it because it's a black hole, which, like, great, okay. This paper by Ed Witten, again, it's a very short 3-page paper. It's a homework problem paper. And he's like, well, if it's a black hole, we couldn't see it. So we would have to look for it, gravity. So we could send some probes to measure the shifting gravity due to the black hole. Here's a calculation of how many probes we would have to send. And this got published. Like, are you just writing up any idea you have? Like, yeah, if it was a black hole, we couldn't see it. Yeah, we would have to look with gravity. Great. I may just be salty because, like, this has been cited more times than most of my papers. And I'm not saying papers have to be long. I'm saying the letter, the short paper, is usually reserved for exciting discoveries. Like, you write the letter and you're like, guys, amazing, paper's following up. Like, Robert Work, who discovered Oumuamua, could have written a letter and everyone would have been like, holy crap, this is amazing, right? But that's not what these homework problem papers are. Like, they don't, like, yeah, they're not wrong. They're not bad physics. It's just inconsequential and not interesting. Like, I immediately contrast these 3 to 5 page papers about various topics that don't really say anything to the EPR paper, the Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen paper, which is a 4-page paper that describes a thought experiment. Just a thought experiment about quantum mechanics. The result of this paper was huge. Like, people receive their copies in the mail because it's the 30s or whatever. Like, they're all reading the paper. Like, the physics departments across the world are just ignited with discussion and passion, and like, we have to design experiments. It deals with quantum mechanics. It led to Bell's theorem. I'm like a really good storyteller. It's all coming around. It led to Bell's theorem. It led to tests of quantum mechanics. That is what a short paper is supposed to do. A short paper is supposed to be like, hey, look at this idea. It's amazing.
I have more than 800 papers that I published, and 8 books, wrote nearly 1,000 scientific papers, published 8 books.
I just don't think writing 800 articles is the flex Avi Loeb thinks it is, when so many of them are these brief little thought experiments. Like, what if the sign wasn't a binary? What if this moon around Mars had life on it? What if galactic kites? Like, it reads like one of those Randall Munroe books, which are good, but you're not really advancing science. Has anybody read one of the 120-ish papers that Avi Loeb has written in the past few years and been like, wow, I'm gonna pursue this topic? Like, they're almost like shit posts. Like, he'll publish like research notes in fields that are far from his own and be like, here's my thoughts on Planet 9. Here's my thoughts on alien civilizations. And The only citations are people responding like he doesn't really understand what's going on in the field. And then Avi Loeb will publish a response to the response. It's like, well, actually, Avi Loeb knows that this is a controversial approach to science. He has mentioned that his postdocs have asked him about this. I will read it to you. I tell my own postdocs that accessible short insights tend to stimulate the field, encouraging follow-up work by the scientific community. I urge them to believe, as I do, that brief, intellectual, rich work will improve their job prospects, and I tell them that their ability to explain research clearly depends on their describing only those things that they understand and admitting those things that they do not. But they inevitably respond, that's easy for you to say, you're the chair of the Harvard Astronomy Department. And it's just like, I can't believe that he published that story. Like, his postdocs, who are very smart because they're at Harvard, they're like, I don't think this is complex enough to be a paper. I don't think this is an interesting result. I don't think we have researched this topic enough to make the statements we want to say. And Avi Loeb's like, we're stimulating the community. We're inspiring. But has anyone followed up on these projects? Has he inspired? And also, why does he get to be the inspiration? Why is Avi Loeb the inspiration of the field of physics? Because usually you inspire people in the introduction of your paper. You write an academic journal article and you introduce the very exciting problem you are going to solve. You put the background. You say, why is this problem important? Here is what I'm going to do. And then through simulation and observation and experiment and analysis, you show your result and you excite the audience with an answer. Avi Loeb just writes the introduction and publishes that 3 to 5 page paper and is like, great, someone will finish this for me. Every 3 days, you just want to come up with another topic and spit out whatever idea you can, and then it gets published because you're Harvard and your postdocs are like, uh-oh, are these going to look bad on my CV? I'm obsessed with this idea that he thinks that these short papers, which are loosely defined as academic research, are inspiration for like just the peons like me. I don't get to come up with my own ideas. I should just look at his papers and finish that work. Like, who gets to decide who gets to be the inspirer of science? Why are you the inspiration? You're the meaning in my life. You're the inspiration. It's just such a cynical way to do science. It's so depressing.
I feel bad for you. I don't think about you at all.
There's nothing wrong with the physics in his papers. He has presented a hypothesis, not a theory, a hypothesis. He needs experiment. So, Avi Loeb has formed a collaboration. He has started a project in order to look for more interstellar objects, saying, these objects, we've seen 2 so far, we'll probably see more. We need to develop instruments with the goal of studying these objects in order to see if they're alien technology, which I think is fine. And if he had framed it that way the whole time, instead of insulting every single astronomer in the world, fine, that's great. You're Harvard, you can get the money, you can make a collaboration, you can build the telescopes, it's going to be interesting research, interesting data. Maybe you'll finish a paper. It's just that he is